Blackberry Jam Cake is a traditional Christmas cake of Appalachia. My recipe starts with a box of cake mix and adds blackberry puree. When combined with caramel frosting, the result is not only delicious, but also beautiful. If you're looking for the perfect holiday cake recipe, keep watching. Although I already have a blackberry jam cake recipe on my channel, I wanted to redo it because when I made the recipe last December, number one, I was having some technical issues and I don't think that the video was the best work that I've done. And number two, that was actually the second blackberry jam cake I made last year. The first was more my style and the second was more of a blend of recipes that I researched. And I actually thought that the first recipe I did was better, so this is a compromise. For those of you who do not know, blackberry jam cake is a Christmas cake that is traditional in Appalachia. Sometimes it's called Kentucky jam cake or Tennessee jam cake. It's basically a spice cake that has blackberry jam. So it'll have ingredients like, of course, a blackberry jam, nuts, shredded coconut, cinnamon, and some other spices, crushed pineapple, buttermilk, things like that. Very similar to a carrot cake or spice cake. The first recipe that I did, I thought that there was a very good sweet and tart contrast because the cake layers, don't get me wrong, they were sweet, but they had a bit of tartness in the background, like my key lime cake does. And when combined with caramel frosting, blackberry jam cake traditionally has a caramel frosting. I thought that it was really delicious. The second recipe that I did, I felt like the tartness in the cake layers, maybe that was just my fault. I felt like that didn't come through as much and it wasn't quite as good as the one I did earlier in the year. So I'm going to try to do something that's kind of a compromise between the two recipes. I think it'll be really delicious. I am going to start off with two 12-ounce packages of frozen blackberries. These are defrosted, and then I put them in the microwave for a few minutes to finish defrosting them, and now they're soft. A couple of them are a little cold, but they're totally defrosted, and as you can see, they're starting to release their liquid. I'm going to blend these with an immersion blender, and then once that's done, I'm going to strain them into this bowl so that I can remove the seeds, and then the juice that is left over I will put into the cake. Because I like to cut down on the sugar, I like to start off with a cake mix and adding blackberry jam, which has sugar, to cake mix that already has sugar. I think it'll be too sweet. So step one, puree the blackberries. Whoa. And make sure that you are wearing old clothes. In order to keep it from flying everywhere, do not turn the immersion blender on when it's near the top. Instead, push it farther down into the liquid and turn it on. If something is stuck on the top, bring up your blender, push it down, and turn it on. So this way, you won't have to worry about blackberry puree flying around your kitchen. The blackberries are now pureed. You can see it made a good amount, about 700 grams. Let's see if it's about 28 ounces, quite a bit. So now I'm going to strain it. A paper towel in the strainer. Strain it bit by bit. Just so. I'm going to use a spoon to press it through like that. If it doesn't go, then I will just pick it up and squeeze. Time for a change in plans. I'm sure you saw that I had a paper towel in the strainer. The first batch of puree that I was straining, I put into the strainer on top of the paper towel and it did not go through at all. So then I had the bright idea of taking it into my hand and squeezing it like that. And part of it shot out this way onto my white shirt and ruined it. So beware. I then just emptied out what was in that paper towel into the strainer, just like this. And then I shook it back and forth. I don't know if you can see, but you can see that it is moving through the strainer and falling into the bowl below. Before I started straining the liquid, it was just under 700 grams, just under 28 ounces, so a good amount. And this seems to be working. I'm not pushing it down or anything, I'm just rocking it back and forth in the strainer. And then once it gets to be just the seeds, then I just knock it out into the bag there. I think that's probably as much as I'm going to get out of this, because now you can see I'm shaking it, but not much is coming out, not like before. And it's already 10:30. I don't want to stand here and strain this all night long, so I am going to just dump it out there, pour in some more, and continue the process. Now that all of the blackberry puree has been strained, this is how much juice I got. I am going to measure it out. I want 1 1/4, maybe 1.5 cups. I measured out the seed-free blackberry puree, 1.5 cups, almost exactly. About 360 grams. Now that I have my seedless blackberry puree, it's time to make the cake batter for the Blackberry Jam Cake. As you know from my other recipes, all of my southern layer cake recipes start off with doctoring a box of cake mix. This recipe is no different. In this bowl, I have one 15.25 ounce box of white cake mix and one small box of instant raspberry gelatin. I know it's not blackberry, but I could not find blackberry gelatin anywhere. And raspberry is another fairly tart berry. I used it the first time I made the cake and it turned out really well, so I'm going to do that again. 3 large eggs, 1/2 cup, or as I measured, 60 grams of chopped pecans. I think walnuts would work as well. 1/2 cup, or as I measured, 50 grams of sweetened coconut. 1.5 cups, or 360 grams of the seedless blackberry puree. I have used frozen blackberry puree before, and I think that you could use that in this version as well if you don't want to go through all the quilombo of straining everything. That is perfectly fine, but this, when I strained the blackberries on my own, it seemed like the puree was a bit darker. So if color is important, I would still strain your own, but like I said, pressing the easy button now and then is not a big deal. So 1.5 cups, or 360 grams of that, 1 tablespoon of white distilled vinegar, 1 teaspoon of raspberry extract. So again, there's no blackberry extract, at least that I can find, and 1/4 cup of canola oil. So nice and easy. All you have to do, pour everything into the bowl. And I was boiling a lot of things the other day, so I think maybe that's why the cake mix and the gelatin were kind of lumpy. But honestly, I think it will be fine. That's what happens to my sugar too. If I boil a lot, like if I make collard greens, I've noticed that it starts to lump together. Eggs, some of these pecans, I've noticed they're kind of big, so I might just take them in my finger and break them up like that. Now for the blackberry puree, 1.5 cups. Tablespoon of vinegar, raspberry extract, and the canola oil. Now that everything is in the bowl, beat for 2 minutes. Once the batter is mixed, it will be a very beautiful color. I scraped one of the puree containers, that's why there's a little bit of unmixed puree on the top. Scrape the sides, pour into 2 prepared cake pans, and bake at 325 for, I'm guessing, 25 to 35 minutes. I'm going to pour what I think to be about half into one, then I'm going to weigh it on the scale, weigh that, see what the difference is, and then go back and forth until I get even layers. You may have noticed that there was no cinnamon. The first time I made this, I did not add cinnamon, and then the second time I did, and I know traditionally it's a spice cake, but $9.90. Actually, I'll just guesstimate this one. I did not put any cinnamon in, and I felt like the first one was better. And I think without the cinnamon, once again, I had more of that sweet and tart contrast without too many other things going on. So that is what I'm going to do. I know this looks like a bit of quilombo, but I am very detail oriented with my cakes. I even use rulers to cut them. What type of cake is this? Stay tuned to find out. Coming up soon on Parnell the Chef. The cake layers just came out of the oven. They were in at 325 for 42 minutes. Bit longer than I had expected, but that's okay. Now they're gonna cool down a bit. I'll take them out of the pans and then make the caramel frosting. Look at that color. And as with all my other cakes, removing it from the pan is a breeze. Just take a knife, insert it like this. This cake has been out of the oven for between 25 and 30 minutes, so it's cool enough to handle. All the way around like that. Take a plate that is wider than this 8-inch pan, put some plastic wrap on it, put it over the cake pan like that, flip it, and voila, comes out beautifully. The caramel frosting is done. It's been cooling for about 4 minutes. Now I'm going to frost the cake just like in my caramel frosting video. Oops. The first layer is on the platter with some wax paper underneath it. I know I did not show this in the video, but all you have to do is pour it into the center like that while it's still warm. Maybe about a third of it. And then once you get the center, go off to the side. Whoops, and I accidentally took it through the frosting. And then spread it out ever so slightly. As you can see, there was a crack in the frosting on the top of the cake. I accidentally put too much frosting in the middle, and the top part started to slide a bit after it had already started to harden. Although it was just cosmetic, I was still frustrated that the cake wasn't perfect. However, in terms of taste, it definitely was. This Blackberry Jam Cake with caramel frosting was a perfect way to end my run of Southern recipes. Not only is it a Christmas recipe and it's the holiday season, but it's also a good end to my Southern recipe series because of the ingredients. Caramel frosting made with evaporated milk, blackberries, coconut pecans, all these ingredients are very Southern. And they came together beautifully in this cake. What really made this cake delicious was the sweet and tart combination, like what happens in the key lime cake. The shredded coconut and pecans giving a very interesting mouthfeel reminiscent of carrot cake. As you can see, this caramel frosting is delicious, but I will admit it is a bit of quilombo, so like I said in the caramel frosting recipe video, if you just want to put a cream cheese frosting on this and call it a day, I won't judge you. You'll still get that sweet and tart flavor contrast. Aside from being delicious, this cake was just beautiful. Look at that color combination. I'm honestly not 100% sure what adjective would be best to describe the color of the inside of the cake. I'm thinking maroon or some other red-purple color. Combined with the light brown caramel frosting, it was definitely eye-catching. As I'm sure you all know, I make a lot of cakes and I've seen a lot of cakes, and I can't ever remember seeing a cake of this same color. It was very intriguing. Although this cake is without question both beautiful and delicious, it is a lot of work. So if you want to buy Blackberry Puree, go on right ahead. For me, this was definitely a good example of how you can research a recipe and then make it a few times and realize what you like and what you don't like. As a chef, I think it's important to tweak things to suit your personal taste, but not to tweak them so much that they are unrecognizable and they don't honor the original recipe or the original concept. Even though my version of Blackberry Jam Cake is definitely different from others, I still think that not only is it recognizable visually, but also in terms of taste with the original recipe, so it's okay. So now I'm happy with the recipe. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, please be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. For more information about Argentinian food and Southern recipes, please visit my website, parnellthechef.com, and be sure to follow me on social media. Right now, I'm most active on Twitter and Instagram. Once again, thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye!